Hello, John Major. John Major, the former British Prime Minister, the man who succeeded Mrs. Thatcher, has added his voice to the debate, which looks as if it's going to be going on for at least 2 weeks. It may go on, it is planned to go on until September, unless one of the two candidates who are then going to be put to the Conservative faithful to vote on pulls out, as Andrea Leadsom did last time in a flood of tears. I hope there won't be any tears this time, but who knows? And I trust that if one of those two candidates is Liz Truss, she'll do the right thing and drop out. And but Mr. Major, or Sir John Major, has criticised Boris in the past. He doesn't hold back now. He says that Boris has broken the law and ignored conventions since taking office in 2019. And that, I think, is the decisive thing. Yes, the media is obsessed with Boris's lying and Boris's fines for Partygate, but I don't think those are the big ones. The big ones are the way that he ignores conventions, and at the top of that list is the Northern Ireland Protocol and the 1951 Convention about refugees. So at the top of the list is Rwanda and Ireland. And I think also the way that he has belittled and dismissed Parliament. But he's not alone in that. Other people have previously treated Parliament with a certain amount of contempt, and one could also say possibly treated cabinet government with a certain amount of contempt. But when we think back to Mrs. Thatcher may not necessarily have relied on the cabinet and may sometimes have been a little presidential in her manner, but she always used the cabinet to test ideas, and she seemed to relish a good argument and to being convinced of something, whether it was right or wrong. And she was prepared, I think, to change her mind. I've always hoped that had she remained in office, we would have seen Clause 28 repealed. And I would have hoped that she would have been significantly more contrite about what she did to the miners and their communities and helped to rebuild those communities in a way that I think never really happened. So Sir John says that the blame for the ignoring conventions must lie principally, but not only, with the Prime Minister. So I think there he's taking a very, very careful swipe at the entire cabinet who are standing to replace Johnson. That leaves only Hunt and Tugendhat as possible candidates for his vote. And his vote will count if this goes to the popular vote of the Tory party around the country. And he's calling on new ministerial codes that should protect our democracy and our constitutional norms, those laws which are not written down. He says democracy is not inevitable. It can be undone step by step, action by action. And if we are not trusted, this is really where we come to the question about lies. There are many prime ministers who have lied to the camera, who have lied to the media, who have lied to Parliament, the cabinet, and so on. But in almost every instance, those prime ministers have maintained trust, even when the lies were so bold and obvious. And we come back to this thing which I've said a few times. It's not the lies which are so reprehensible, it's the loss of trust. If somebody is trying to run the country, there are secrets that he or she has to keep. And that is another way of saying that actually they have to lie. They have to dissemble. They have to move around the truth. Perhaps that's the most apposite way of discussing this. But if they lose trust, they lose authority. And Boris lost trust. And I think he did so some months ago. And the problem is he has been enabled in this process. and he has been backed up by a chorus of individuals, some of whom are standing to succeed him, and some of whom, like Rishi Sunak, left at the last minute. I don't think that actually gives them a right to claim some sort of credit. They were there supporting Johnson and supporting this eradication, this dismantling of conventions for month after miserable month. No, the only two people who can possibly stand with any credibility are Tugendhat and Hunt. And Hunt, I'm afraid, is linked to Mrs. May's premiership, and it's under Mrs. May that the rot really sank in. Mrs. May was the person who thought that one could get round things simply by the words that one chose. Again, choosing words which don't mean what you want them to mean, that's another way of describing deceit. And it's a very quick tumble from that to losing trust. Mrs. May also lost the trust of the party and the country. I would like to see Mrs. May make another stab, and I think she's a good person. And I think she still has something to offer the country, and I would prefer to see her doing that in cabinet rather than backstabbing from the backbenches as she's done throughout Boris's tenure. Though, of course, the things that she's said have been hilariously brilliant. And remember, she wasn't only stabbing Boris, she was stabbing Liz Truss and Priti Patel as well. So she has been generous in the stabs that she has provided, and Mr. Major, Sir John Major, has been equally generous in the stabbing.